So there we are. So now we're going to have a longer Dharma talk. So I got my wish in the end, as I was saying, due to towards the end before we got cut off. Then that Leanne got cut off.
Your mum hasn't come back on.
Okay, well, it's okay. Just let her do it in her own time, and keep an eye out for anybody else as well. Leanne, okay. Yeah. So like I was saying just before we got cut off, that I was looking. We did shorter loving kindness meditation because I wanted a few more minutes to talk. Well, guess what? We're going to have more than a few minutes extra to talk. Probably another 15 minutes, because normally the Dharma talk is between these days about 20 to 25 minutes. And I just wanted to finish up on a few of the answers to the questions. So I wanted a little bit longer. And like I said, I encourage you to do longer meditations. So for instance, if you are releasing the tension from the body, spend more time on specific areas, especially those areas that you have a habit of tensing up in. And then, of course, spend a little bit longer, depending on, of course, every individual, your likes, your dislikes, depending on the day, maybe, however long you meditate for on your breath. Do it with patience, obviously. Don't be too hard on yourself, but also don't be lazy. And then, of course, the loving kindness meditations, the different aspects within the meditation there. Just spend a bit more time on it so that you're really clear and really not rushing things. Give yourself the time. Don't waste the opportunity that we have in this, what we can call precious human life. Okay, so I think that's it for that. Okay, so Happy New Year, the Lunar New Year. I think it's tonight. I don't tend to keep up with these types of things very much, but I think it's the 22nd. And of course, tonight is the 21st. So I think it's midnight. The new year comes into play from then onwards. Okay, so once again, I say Happy New Year to everybody who celebrates or pays attention to the Lunar New Year or lunar calendar. And I'm titling these classes Happy New Year Part 1 last week, Happy New Year Part 2 this week, Happy New Year Part 3 next week. Of course, like I mentioned, I'm answering some questions, grouping them into this heading, which is also part of the heading is past, present, future. And then the subheadings or subtitles are positive change, I think. And also, what did I call the other one? What was the other title? Consistent improvement. Okay, so all of the answers and come under these two, really, as well as the other ones. And today I thought as well, I'll read you some poetry that I wrote, I think it was last year or the year before. And it relates a little bit to the Happy New Year, to past, present, future, to positive change, and also to consistent improvement. I actually posted two of these up on Facebook today as part of sort of the teachings for the new year. And the other one that I posted up was actually what I mentioned before. Don't miss the opportunity here, to practice the Dharma in this human life. Don't miss the opportunity to have reminders, like special days like this, to remind you to practice the Dharma, to remind you to engage in positive change for yourself as well as collectively throughout your communities, your families, communities, and so forth. And also to consistently improve ourselves, as well as consistently improve the conditions around you by engaging in good deeds, in good speech, and good thoughts, and avoiding engaging in bad deeds, bad speech, and bad thoughts. Law of karma coming into play once again. Okay, so I think that was about it, really. One of the questions, I just thought I'd mention this one, but I'm pretty sure we'll actually get on to this next week. And it relates to worldly things. So the question came from, I think it was Singapore or Philippines, maybe, and talking about, you're focusing on the positive change into your mind, to your actions, to your words, specifically related to the Dharma practice, but also in constant improvement related to the Dharma practice. But can we do this within our worldly activities? Well, I must say this, that if you are practicing the Dharma, keeping your mind upright, engaging in the good actions as mentioned just now, avoiding the negative actions, then this will flow into your worldly activities, whether it's related to your work, whether it's related to your studies or your hobbies, then you'll actually continually, consistently improve in these areas. You may have to pay particular attention to certain aspects, certain subjects like that, like if it's your studies, for instance, and you're studying, law or something like that, you have to pay attention to that to consistently improve your knowledge and your implementation of your knowledge at different times. And the same with all other subjects, of course. And the same with if you're engaging in sports, like hobbies and or if that's your profession, then obviously you have to pay attention to that. But keep your mind virtuous, while you're doing this, harmless, and not selfish, even though there is an element of selfishness. Obviously, when you get really good at things, you're really focusing on yourself, especially sports. I guess, to be world class, top of the world sports person, there is very much an element on self, but try your best to be utilize whatever achievements that you have in the end, to actually benefit others, to give up selfishness. So the positive change, consistent improvement, the worldly work, studies, hobbies, I've mentioned that. Once again, we'll go into this a little bit more detail next week, because I want to cover some other things this week, related also to the requisites, so we can improve our lives as well, improve the shelter that we have, whether this to do with building it ourselves or earning a decent living so we can pay for it to happen, or just creating the good conditions karmically, so sometime in the future you have better shelter. The clothing comes under this, and of course food, improve our diet, improve our understanding, first of all, of the nutritional aspects of the food, so that you can improve your diet and you can become more healthy. Also related to the drinking of water, how much water, and so forth, and other liquids as well, fruits and whatever, fruit juices, that we get to understand what it is we're putting into our body. So this is part of sort of improving on a worldly part, of a worldly way, in a worldly way, I should say. And this can help our digestive system. And we are, of course, then regular. I know we don't like to talk about toilets, but actually you think about it, you eat food, you're going to go to the toilet that way. It's just natural part of the process. You drink the liquids, you're going to go to the toilet that way. So we need to keep this, the plumbing, you could jokingly say, in the body regular, okay, so flowing, and then we are more likely to be healthier. And also the air around us, continually improve this. I'll also speak next week a little bit about improving the climate, improving the environment, stop chopping down trees, for instance, create less pollution, eventually, hopefully no pollution almost. And I wrote that on the back here. And it was interesting, it came to my attention that recently, not so much recently, probably 20 years ago, they changed this idea of global warming into sounding a little bit nicer and calling it climate change. But actually global warming maybe is a little bit, we're going to pay more attention to that statement or that phrase, that title, maybe because we can remind ourselves that the planet is warming, the waters are warming, so this is going to create more imbalance in our environment and so forth. That'll do for that for a minute. So I think, like I said, I'll talk about this a little bit more next week, which was my plan initially, but I thought I'd introduce it to you today, especially considering we're going to have a lot more time to talk, to have the Dharma talk today. Okay, so I don't know who pays attention to the Lunar New Year of you. I know that over time, myself, whether it's Solar New Year and Lunar New Year, so-called Buddhist New Year, I never really paid that much attention to it. Now, of course, the time of Vesak, start of the Buddhist New Year, I pay more attention to that and the aspects of it. In other words, the Buddha, being born as Bodhisattva, then attaining enlightenment, and also the passing away to the teaching on impermanence and so forth. Okay, so pay attention to that. But also when it comes to the other ones, like I've said before, jokingly a little bit, but sometimes serious, partially serious, that there's really nothing that is ending. The previous year is not really ending. The new year is not really beginning. I don't really know much about what do you call that stuff? With the star signs and things. I can't remember the title of it, but this time it's about what do they call it, the year of the rabbit or something. Now, of course, I don't think many people probably know what that is, but maybe it has related to the qualities, the good qualities, but also like archetypical energy, archetype energy, and the like. But I'm not too sure about these things myself. Okay, I pay more attention to the Dharma teachings, to understanding the Dharma teachings, to put them into practice and to teach them whatever it is I learn. I pay more attention to these things rather than star signs, horoscopes, whether it's the solar calendar or the lunar calendar. But I'm sure there's some wisdom there. I'm sure you can learn something from some knowledge to do with this. And so if you ever get the opportunity really to learn from learned people, experiential learned people, then do so. So then you can understand what it is we are talking about, or they are talking about, and at the same time being able to share it with others when you get the opportunity. Okay, so now the poems. Okay, so the first one is related, well, I just read it to you, then I'll explain it, okay? So the heading is Happy Lunar New Year 2023. Okay. Yesterday has gone, tomorrow has not yet come, and the present day and the present moment are fleeting. Actually, the concepts of yesterday, today, and tomorrow are merely constructs of the mind. Have a happy Lunar New Year living in the present, free from worry, anxiety, and conceptual thinking. Now, this is a style of poetry that doesn't rhyme, okay? I can't remember what it's called traditionally, okay? But years ago, when I first started writing songs and poetry, even as a teenager, early teens even, everything rhymed, really. And then I realized, it doesn't have to rhyme. In fact, when it rhymes all the time, it kind of can sound cheesy and corny sometimes. And I think that over time, I've stopped rhyming, and only rhyming if by accident most of the time, okay? So this is something that I actually wrote years ago, now that I remember, but last year I think I fine-tuned it, okay, and shortened it. So obviously, on the surface, you can know what it is. The first verse says, yesterday has gone, tomorrow has not yet come, and the present day and the present moment are fleeting. That's the Buddhist teachings, isn't it? Not just the Buddhist teachings, but teachings from great masters throughout the ages. So, Greek philosophy, you can go back to that. Prior to Buddhism in India, prior to Buddhism in China, and so forth. Okay, so yesterday has gone. It's obvious. Past has gone. And I've mentioned this many times. It's only ever good to learn from. The past is only ever good to learn from. Otherwise, when you cling to the past, you give rise to worry. You're worrying about what it is that you either did that maybe you shouldn't have done, or that things that you didn't do that you should have done. You're hanging on to maybe some remorse, clinging remorse, and some sort of guilt about those things you didn't do or things that you did do. But it's already gone. It is good if we think about that and go, oh, okay, yes, I made those mistakes. I'll do my best not to do it again. Resolve not to do it again. And then it becomes a good thing because you're learning from it. You know, you're recognizing it, maybe contemplating on it without clinging to it. And then you're learning more about yourself on how to improve yourself. You know, consistent improvement again, going back to that. How to make positive change. And then, of course, the second line says, tomorrow has not yet come. And as mentioned previously, tomorrow never comes. Because as soon as it becomes tomorrow, it's today. But we have this concept of tomorrow. Okay, so and if we're always concerned with tomorrow or what we're going to do in the future, this gives rise to anxiety because we maybe are worried that we're not going to achieve our goals, that we're not confident in ourselves or trust our abilities, you know, so then it gives rise to this anxiety. And even if we are a confident person and trusting person, still gives rise to some sort of anxiety. So being anxious about what it is that's going to happen in the future. And of course, the present day and all of the moments that make up this present day, they are fleeting. It's fleeting, right? It's constantly changing. That's what fleeting means. It doesn't stay the same for one moment. And so the law of impermanence again, anicca. And therefore, every moment is empty of itself. Okay, so every moment that makes up this day, and due to that, this day is also empty. Yesterday is gone, empty. Future never comes, empty. Okay, now not empty in the sense of nothing exists, but empty in of itself, because it's interdependent with the other concepts and the other experiences, moment to moment to moment. Okay, whether this relates obviously directly to the mind, but also the things that we engage in physically as well, and what we've said, what we're going to say, everything like this. Okay, so that's that one. Yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not yet come, and the present day and the present moment are fleeting. Actually, the concepts of yesterday, today, and tomorrow are merely constructs of the mind. So we make them up in our mind. It's interesting, isn't it? Now, if we drop this idea of the past, just see if we can do it just for a moment, and even drop this idea of the present moment, and drop the idea of the future, then I still have to use words here, okay, for convenience and to explain. So we're going to use the word moment. So in this moment, you are free from worry, free from anxiety, free from wanting this, not wanting that, free from hopes and fears, free from suffering, free from the causes of suffering, free even from the cessation of suffering, and free from the path, free from actually being so-called unenlightened, free from the concept of enlightenment even. So it's kind of deep, that second verse. These things are all constructs of the mind. They don't exist ultimately of themselves or as a group, collectively. Okay, so I think I'll leave that there. And then the next part is have a happy Lunar New Year, living in the present, free from worry, anxiety, and conceptual thinking. So I just covered the worry and anxiety enough, I think, but conceptual thinking. We're always thinking of concepts and living by these concepts. Impermanent, permanent, gives rise to this dualistic thinking, right? Purity, impurity. Suffering, non-suffer or no suffering. Empty, full. All of these opposites come into play. But the actual reality is beyond all of this, ultimate reality, beyond these words that I'm speaking, beyond the concept of celebrating the new year, beyond even acknowledging it. But of course, human beings, We think conceptually, let's take advantage of these times. Let's not waste this precious opportunity to engage in positive change and consistently improve ourselves. And therefore, consistently improving the possibility that we will be a positive influence on others and even help others to work their way towards attaining enlightenment. So I think that'll do for that. I'll just recite it again to you. Yesterday has gone, tomorrow has not yet come, and the present day and the present moment are fleeting. Actually, the concepts of yesterday, today, and tomorrow are merely constructs of the mind. Have a happy Lunar New Year, living in the present, free from worry and anxiety and conceptual thinking. Okay, so the next one is titled Realize a Virtuous Harvest. So I'm using the example of, the harvest related to vegetable growing or fruit growing, things like that, okay? Of course, we have our veggie garden here at Phillip Island, and we obviously would like to have virtuous harvest, okay? Now, I mentioned the word virtuous harvest in the sense this is like you planting good seeds for good plants, nutritional food coming from these plants, and rather than poisonous things, okay, or weeds. In other words, related to the mind, engaging in good deeds of the body, speech, mind, and avoiding engaging in the bad deeds of body, speech, mind, okay? So what you did yesterday affected today. What you do today affects tomorrow. Each cause has its effect. Fertile ground, along with virtuous conditions and care, will always realize a virtuous harvest. Plant virtuous seeds of goodness, of wisdom and compassion, and realize a virtuous harvest. So I'm talking specifically about the law of karma here. Now, you could go beyond that as well, because these also are concepts, just like I mentioned from the previous poem. And so go beyond this conceptual thinking and you will realize the supreme wisdom. So maybe creating a good condition so your mind then becomes ripe to be able to realize the nature of reality. Of course, along the way, developing the bodhicitta, the great compassion, and all of the other virtuous qualities that we need to initially pick up and adopt, and then, of course, nurture and eventually perfect. Eventually to create the conditions where our mind is now ripe to understand the nature of reality. Okay, so what you did yesterday affected today. So think about that. Whatever we did yesterday has affected today. I don't think we can argue with that. Of course, some of the effects that we have today, some of the conditions we have today were caused prior to that as well. And even today, we create the conditions for this to be ripe today. So once again, if you think of the past, this is not just yesterday. So the past from beginningless time, you could say, but even if we just think in this lifetime, so all of the parts of your life that has led up to now has affected how you are now, physically and mentally. And then, of course, what we do today affects tomorrow. I'll give you an example related to food. Now, think about this. Let's say yesterday you ate rubbish. You had slimy food, maybe greasy chips. Maybe you ate a lot of chocolate, greasy chocolate, just white chocolate. Maybe you ate a lot of dairy or something, ice cream or something like that. All in the one day. Maybe you had too much coffee. Then I think today, maybe your stomach's upset. But if yesterday you ate a good balanced diet, enough vegetables, enough fruit, and so forth, all the good stuff, then I'd say today your stomach will feel very balanced and you will feel quite healthy. So if you continue to do this, if you continue to eat well, then your physical health And then, of course, your mental health as well will improve. But if you continue to eat the bad foods, then your physical health will decline, and this, in course, will affect your mind as well, and vice versa. So you can see that. Now let's go back to the mind and then our physical and verbal actions as well. If we continually engage in good actions of the body, the speech, and the mind, let's say we did it yesterday, then we're going to feel good about it today. We're going to have the good effects of this today. And we're going to feel good about ourselves. We're going to be confident in ourselves and trust ourselves more. And others will do likewise. You will be a positive influence on others as well. But if you engaged in evil actions or non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind yesterday, then today there will be some sort of imprint on your mind of some sort of remorse, even if you're blocking yourself off through habits to not perceive it. It will continue to cloud your mind. Your mind will become more clouded and clouded over time. And therefore, obviously, go the opposite way to creating the conditions to develop the compassion and the wisdom. So that's kind of what I'm talking about there. So whatever we did yesterday affected today. And what we do today affects tomorrow. So let's say we did engage in eating bad foods yesterday. Learn from it. And try your best not to do it again and eat more healthily. Let's say you did engage in bad deeds of the body, speech, and mind yesterday. Learn from it. Recognize it. Regret it. Let it go. And make the resolve not to engage in these things again. Okay? And really work hard to engage in the opposites, in the wholesome only. Each cause has its effect, because yes, that's right. So if you cause suffering, you will experience suffering. So if you engage in acting or thinking, acting, and speaking based on ignorance, attachment, and aversion, and all of the other mental afflictions that come from these, then you will be creating suffering for yourself. Eventually, even if not immediately. But if you engage in actions of the body, speech, and mind that are based on understanding, on universal love and compassion, non-attachment or as little attachment as possible, generous mind, moral mind, patient, and so forth, then you will be creating the causes of happiness. And then these conditions that will help you to have the mind, or the conditions of the mind, where you will become more compassionate, more loving, more generous, and the like, and eventually have a mind that is right to understand the nature of reality. In other words, perceive the perfection of wisdom, or realize the perfection of wisdom. Okay, so I think I'd leave that verse there. I'll repeat it. What you did yesterday affected today. What you do today affects tomorrow. Each cause has its effect. Fertile ground, along with virtuous conditions and care, will always realize a virtuous harvest. Very simple. I just mentioned most of these things before, so I've kind of covered this already. Let's say there is a farm, and you cultivate the land well, you till the soil well, and give it the oxygen it needs, enough water, nutrients, and everything like that. And then obviously plant the seeds, take care of it with the right amount of rain and sun and so forth. Then eventually, and look after it, protect it against the elements, protect it against other animals, coming and eating it. Then eventually, you will get a good harvest. Of course, it's not totally protected from everything, is it? It's not protected from you can't control the weather and stuff like that. But do your best, and you will get a good harvest. And that's likewise. You continually and consistently engage in these virtuous actions of body, speech, mind. Then it'll be very, very good, and then you will get good results. Okay, excuse me. But if you don't care, or if you're planting the wrong things, in other words, engaging in the negative actions of body, speech, and mind, then you will experience the difficulties and the suffering as a result of that. What to say there? So yeah, it's important to be caring and courteous, and also obviously base this on awareness, mindfulness, be conscientious, and do the right thing in the right direction. Always check your mind, check your intentions, and then from this, then obviously make sure that you're acting through your body and through your speech in a mature way, in a consistent way, consistently good, consistently improving, and also making the changes for the better. Constant improvement of your own mind, of your actions that follow, and your speech that follows. Plant virtuous seeds of goodness, of wisdom and compassion. Realize virtuous harvest. So you can almost say the virtuous harvest is guaranteed. Okay, you engage in good actions of body, speech, mind, especially based on the bodhicitta intention, the great altruistic intention, compassionate intention. Then all of your actions and all of your speech will follow. And then you will create these good conditions continually and consistently. Once again, we'll go through the 5 stages of the path. So, for instance, the path of accumulation, or the 5 paths, I should say. You go past worldly activities, you enter the path of accumulation, where you accumulate vast amounts of merits and good conditions and develop the bodhicitta. Then you go on to the path of preparation, now preparing your mind to understand the nature of reality. And then you go on to the path of insight, where you get a glimpse of the nature of reality. And then the path of meditation or absorption. Now you absorb your mind fully with this understanding, this wisdom. And then you go beyond all of this to the path of no more learning, to enlightenment, full enlightenment, where now you have totally unified and perfected the bodhicitta and the wisdom of emptiness. What we can say the 2 bodhicittas, okay? The ultimate bodhicitta there, obviously, before that, the relative bodhicitta. Okay, so enlightenment. I think that'll do for the poems. Because we had a little bit longer today, I was able to talk about them a little bit more. But I won't go on to the parts that I mentioned that I'll mention next week. And I think that then after that week, we'll actually go on to the 8 verses of thought transformation. So the start of February, the first class in February. I think we have 6 minutes to go now. And I just shared, I'm glad I thought of this. I cannot find the papers that we worked off, I don't know how many years ago now, 5, 6 years or something ago, where we utilized the Dalai Lama's commentary on these 8 verses of thought transformation. But I do recall that David Maureen, you were at these classes. Also, Mahendra and Elon, you were at these classes. And Leanne, I think you were at the classes. I know Alicia was, and others were at these classes. So if you can look into your files of the previous papers that we utilized for me to give commentary on or off or from, then maybe you can actually email them to me, like scan them and then email. That'll be really cool. If you still have them, that is, then I can utilize them. Otherwise, what I will do is I will, I'm just looking at, Mum, what are you doing there? You're covering up your camera or something. Anyway, so that I have that to work off as well. Otherwise, it's no problem, okay? Because I have a little paragraph from Dalai Lama, but also I can give the commentary of these teachings off the top of my head, okay? So it's no problem. give you the confidence that I have the confidence to do that. I have been practicing this practice, you could say, or as part of my sadhana practice for now probably about 25, 26, 27 years, something like that. Okay, so there's some good experience there. But if you have those papers, please, like I said, scan them and email them to me. My email address, just for convenience for you, is Yeshe1. So that's YESHE1 at hotmail.com. Yeshe, all lowercasing, YESHE1 at hotmail.com. And just to let you know, Yeshe is actually a Tibetan word meaning supreme wisdom. So I say this with humility that was the initial Dharma name I was given in the Tibetan tradition. So Tenzin Yeshe, which I think means upholder of wisdom, protector of wisdom, something like that. And then, of course, my master from the Vietnamese tradition also adopted that name for me, but translated it into the Vietnamese. Actually used the transliteration of the Sanskrit prajna, which is Batnya. So it became Tik Batnya, okay, in the Vietnamese tradition. But I use Andrew because it's easier for you guys, much easier for all English speakers. Andrew is fine. And it's also respect for my parents too. So I hope that you've enjoyed the class today. I know that there's a bit of movement. I think, Mum, did you get up to get a drink or something? You covered your screen. I can see Nelon moving around, looking at things. Are you looking for the papers? I'm not sure. You are? Okay, good. So, yeah, so that'd be great. If you do have the papers, that'd be fantastic. And you can send them to me and I can utilize them. You do have them. You can see them there. I don't know if everybody else can see Nelon holding them up. Thank you so much for keeping that. I know that I do have them somewhere. It's just sometimes my filing is not good because, you know, I utilize stuff and then I put it away in a drawer somewhere. And occasionally don't file it away properly. My writings I file very well, but other things sometimes not so much. I think I can consistently improve on that, and I can make more positive change in my filing habits, or with them. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed the longer class today, like mentioned. We have no idea what happened before. Leanne all of a sudden was off and the recording had stopped. So I thought it would take the opportunity to continue to record the class because I know that there's quite a few people that look at the recordings later on. I know that because I get a lot of questions from the people that do that. And so I think it's good for that. Plus also today, instead of having a 40-minute class, we had something like 55 minutes or an hour. When I posted or upload it to YouTube and also post it on Facebook, I'll obviously do part 1, which was before, and part 2, which is the one we're doing right now. Okay, so review the class. And also for some of you, I know that you've said that you want to introduce the class to other people, whether they take part live or look at the recordings. Just encourage them to do so. Because sometimes when people look at starting something, they keep putting it off. Okay, so it's not part of their life habits yet. So encourage those people, okay, to look at things and work their way to improving their abilities to be able to do that, to study the Dharma, to implement or contemplate the Dharma, and then implement what it is we've learned from learning the Dharma methods. So I rejoice in your goodness, and thank you very much for your time. I'm going to go for a walk now and then eat a little bit later.